Hello everyone, ARG back with some more Franchise Hockey Manager 9, and today we have the start of the 1982 calendar year. We are in January, right about mid-season in the 1981-1982 season. And folks, we had a really good month of December last time out, where I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we only lost one game in the entire month. So that means that in December we got points in all the games we played except for one, so that's pretty good, and that's a big reason why we climbed all the way to 6th place in the conference. Now there's a little bit of a gap between us and the Rangers. That's a 6-point gap, so that's going to be a little bit hard to overcome, but like I was saying at the end of the last stream, we are pretty much right where I thought that we would be for this season. Now, can we keep it up? I don't know. Obviously, having that great of a month in January as well would be fantastic. I'm not necessarily counting on it, but it would be pretty awesome to have another great month. Maybe not as strong where we lose only one game, because that was pretty odd, but yeah. So that's where we're at. Now, January, we're going to go ahead and go and do business as usual. Now, February, next stream, as we know, February is when I sign contracts, extensions and everything. So we'll see who gets to stay, and I've had my hands kind of tied a little bit with contract slots the last couple seasons, so I will be a lot more picky about whom it is that I extend and who is going to walk. So, we're going to go ahead and get started here soon. We do have a few injuries, but nothing long-term anymore. The longest injury that we have still on the list there is Mark Messier, 1 to 2 weeks. Other than that, everybody else is day-to-day, so that's pretty good. So, well, let's get underway. We're going to go ahead and advance to when we actually have a game to play. Now, Wilf Payment, second in the league in points. He's ours. I did that. I went and I got him. And I was forced to do something. Alright, let's see here. Owner confidence update. So, owner is satisfied. We're in a rebuilding process. So, that didn't change. Not expected to be serious contenders next season. That didn't change. Fans are thrilled. That didn't change. And no need to worry about my job. Oh, do I have the confidence or what? Right, one of your assistants has mentioned that a clique he previously brought to your attention appears to have broken up. This should help maintain a higher level of harmony on the team. Oh, look at that. Okay, there was a clique in my team. There's no clique anymore. Bill Kitchen says, I am ready to play. So he is fully recovered. Now, does that mean, since the clique has broken up, does that mean that one of my star players is going to go and commit a heinous crime of ice? Probably. That's probably what that means. Régent has been put on the block. I looked at players prior to starting the stream that were on the block, and I did see that Régent was there. He was the best player available. You're gonna have to excuse me. I'll be right back. My apologies. So whenever we get a delivery, our dog goes crazy. So, all right. So I advanced one day. I was saying Reginald was put on the block. He's the best player available on the block right now, but he's like 32 years old. Definitely not gonna go for a trade for him. All right. So we are about to play the Pittsburgh Penguins in Pittsburgh. We have a back-to-back against them. We're starting in Pittsburgh, and it's going to be in Hartford tomorrow. We have not played Pittsburgh this season. That's the team we traded Mike Rogers to for their first-round draft pick, and they are still the worst team in the league, so I kind of like that. Because I have their first-round draft pick. Woo! Right, so that didn't change here. They have a whole bunch of injuries, and they're not putting them on injured reserve. I don't know what that's about, but anyway. Maybe they're going to do it right before the game against us. So Pittsburgh have Orest Kindrachuk, that's Hurt, Mike Rogers, Chapman, Hughes, and Lee are all hurt. Players that are healthy are Larrock Millen, Anderson Carlisle, Charney Dykstra, Mulhern, Bladen, Mikelargi. And up front, Broughton Fraser Johnson, Lansbury Thomas, Bullard, Ferguson, Malone and Keogh are healthy. Now I don't know what's going to happen with, who's gonna fill in and whatnot. But I don't care. Let's go and kick their butt because that helps us with their first round draft pick, right? All right. So still no Mark Messier for us, which means that the Stastny brothers are playing together on the same line. John Garrett is going to be in net for the Waiters. Michel Larocque is going to be in net for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And of course, go Waiters, go! Oh, a nice 6-2 victory over the Penguins. So nice road victory here. We outshot Pittsburgh 49-23 in that one. It was quite the domination. Anton Stastny was the first star of the game. He had 2 goals. Paul Coffey was the second star with 3 assists. And Wilf Payment was the third star with 2 assists. Hey, Kel. What's up? Alright, so Peter Stastny opened up the scoring in the first from Wilf Payment and Ron Stackhouse. Then Anton Stastny from Brent Sutter and Paul Coffey. 2-0 Hartford here after 1. Oh. Watching me from the iPad. Alright. Well, now don't look too much at that high definition screen and everything. Like you might see like all of the gray in my beard and everything. Alright, so we had Kurt Fraser and Jay Wells get into a fight, and it was 2-0 Hartford after 1. And then into the second period, Peter Stastny scored again from Gordy Roberts and Wilf Payment, and then Jordy Douglas scored his 5th from Rick Aduano and Paul Coffey. 4-0 Hartford at that point. There was another fight between Ross Lansbury and then Ron Stackhouse fought against a former teammate. Then in the third period, Dave Poulain scored from Brent Sutter and Gordy Roberts, made it 5-0. Then Pittsburgh showed some fighting back. They got 2 goals, but then Anton Stastny scored shortly after that from Paul Coffey and Dave Poulain. It was 6-2 Hartford. That's the final score. There was another fight between Randy Carlisle and Jay Wells, and all in all, pretty good game. Now, I did see that Anderson got a 5-minute for boarding, so it looks like he's suspended for that. Take that, piece of shit. He's going to miss 1 game. With Payment extends his point streak to 18 games, 2 assists as we saw, so now 18 games for our player with at least a point. Anton Stastny extends his goal streak to 5 games. He had 2 goals, so 5 straight games with at least a goal for him. Brett Callaghan extends his goal streak to 5 games with the Oilers against Boston. He had a goal. Wayne Gretzky extends his point streak to 19 games. He had a goal and 3 assists in that same game, and that was 12 straight games with an assist for him. Brad Marsh. Hey, Kel, did you see that I answered you on Discord? Hopefully that's what you're looking for. Calgary's Marsh suspended, so he's going to miss 1 game. Great night for our old pal Blaine Stockton in LA. He had a hat trick against the Flames. Guy Chouinard's point streak ended at 14 games. was scoreless against Montreal. Great night for Guy Lafleur in that same game. He had a hat trick. There was no stopping John Anderson with the Leafs. He had 3 goals and an assist against the Minnesota North Stars. And in that same game, Lanny McDonald had 3 goals and an assist. Right? Anders Carlson, Todd Struby are adjusting better to their new environments. And there was a trade between the Rangers and the North Stars. Mario Marois and Steve Rooney go to the North Stars for Tom Yagans and Fred Arthur. Alright, that's it's a trade. Ah, okay, that's fine. No worries. I was just curious to see if you did or not. All right. And that's a note for everybody watching ARG. If you reach out to me on Discord and you have questions about hockey or the game or anything, I always end up answering. Not always right away, but I always end up answering eventually. Alright, so now it's the second of the back-to-back against the Pittsburgh Penguins. Now they are in town. Now, of course, Pittsburgh is 9-27-2. They are still dead last in the conference, and we are going to see if we can beat them for the second time in 2 days. Greg Millen is going to be in net for Pittsburgh. Gilles Gilbert in net for us. Go, Waiters, go. Come on, oh my, we should have this. A 7-4 win. Oh yeah. We outshot Pittsburgh 45-34 in that game. Peter Stastny was the first star of the game. He had 4 assists. Paul Coffey was the second star with 3 assists. And Jordy Douglas was the third star with 2 goals. 7,703 people in attendance for the game. Bo Berglund opened up the scoring in the first from Peter Stastny and Paul Coffey. It was 1-0 Hartford after 1. We had a fight between Wolf Payment and Kurt Fraser. Then in the second period, Pittsburgh scored twice, took a 2-1 lead. Then Chuck Clefley scored from Dave Poulin and Wolf Payment. Then Ron Stackhouse scored on the power play from Rob Ramage and Peter Stastny. Then Wolf Payment from Paul Coffey and Peter Stastny. It was 4-2 Hartford at that point. Pittsburgh would score 22 seconds later to bring it to a 1-goal game. 4-3 Hartford after 2. Yeah, he's starting to wake up a little bit. I like it. I was a huge Paul Coffey fan when I was a kid. Paul Coffey got into a fight with Randy Carlyle, and then in the third period, Pittsburgh managed to tie the game. But then, 30 seconds later, Jordy Douglas scored from Glenn Anderson and Paul Coffey. Then Jordy Douglas scored unassisted, and then finally, Bo Berglund completed the score in an empty net from Peter Stastny and Anton Stastny. 7-4, the final score. Oh, looks like a lot of fighting in the third period. Bill Kitchen fought with Orest Kindrachuk. Wolf Payment with Kurt Fraser. Wolf Payment again with Orest Kindrachuk. Oh, I guess Pittsburgh got frustrated. Alright, so Rick Shinsky has been put on the block. So did John Paddock. Yeah, the Payment had 3 fights in that game. And a goal and an assist, so what is it? It's the triple Gordie Howe hat trick. I don't know how to call it. 3 fights, a goal and an assist. That's more than a Gordie Howe hat trick. Alright, so 19 straight games with a point for him. Goal and an assist. Anton Stastny extends his point streak to 12 games. He had an assist against Pittsburgh. Great night for Peter Stastny. As we say, he had 4 assists. Russ Anderson served the suspension. Doug Wickenheiser will miss 5 months with the Rangers, so yeah, season over for Wickenheiser. That happened against Washington after taking part in a fight. I grew up watching hockey in the 80s, so it's kind of natural to see your best players fight from time to time, so there wasn't as much a focus on player safety back then. So I mean, it is what it is. I understand that I play in the 80s, so a lot of players will just fight. It's very different nowadays. And I remember for Guy Chouinard for the Rangers, he had 4 goals against the Capitals. In a big game for Mike Gartner in that same game, he had 3 goals and an assist. Now we have 2 days off before we are going to host the Winnipeg Jets. Right, not a whole lot going on right now. Oh, Darren Veitch gets to come back from injury. Awesome. Right, we are going to send Kitchen down. Hey FJ, long time no see, buddy. Yeah, that's because I shampoo it just for you. Just kidding, but yeah, the beard grows. Believe it or not, okay, you're free to not believe me, but you know that beard is pretty long and everything. That beard is pretty long, right? That's only 1 year worth. Like I shaved about a year ago, and maybe just a little bit more than a year, maybe a year and a few weeks, and this is what I end up with. Like I lay down and like my beard gets under my arm and like it pulls and everything. But I don't know if I'm going for the Brent Burns look or not. He stole it from me. No, he didn't, but it is what it is. Right, so Darren Veitch is back, and yes, Patrick Kane is a Ranger, as well as Tarasenko. Right, Gilles Lupien has been put on waivers by Buffalo. Calgary gets Brad Marsh back from his suspension, and the North Stars are offering me Peter Medak for Don Gillen. I might say yes to that, or maybe not. What's Don Gillen's contract situation? Yeah, I think I'm gonna prefer to have the contract slot at this point, so we're gonna say no. I'm gonna reject the trade. All right, so Winnipeg is in town. They are 13-23-4. We are 1-0 against the Jets this season. We are going to try and beat them again. So how have you been, FJ? It's been a minute since I'm not really seeing your face, but since I've seen you in ear. Grant Fuhr is going to be in net for the Jets. Gilles Gilbert is going to be in net for us. And of course, go Hartford, go! 6-3 victory. We are undefeated in January so far. That's pretty good. We outshot Winnipeg 33-32. Anton Stastny was the first star of the game. He had 3 assists. Bob Stevenson was the second star with a goal and an assist. And Wilf Payment was the third star with 2 assists. 8,775 people in attendance for this game. Paul Coffey opened up the scoring in the first. That was a power play goal from Gordy Roberts and Chuck Lefley. 1-0 Hartford after 1. And in the second period, Ron Stackhouse scored from Wilf Payment and Dave Poulin, then Peter Stastny from Anton Stastny and Wilf Payment. 3-0 at that point. Then the Jets scored. It was 3-1, and then we scored again. Rick Aduano from Anton Stastny and Bob Stevenson. 4-1 Hartford at that point. And then the Jets scored again. 4-2 Hartford after 2. We had a fight between Jay Wells and Scott Campbell. Down in the third period, Winnipeg came to within 1. They scored a goal. Then Paul Coffey scored on a power play from Gordy Roberts and Peter Stastny. And then Bob Stevenson scored in an empty net from Bernie Johnston and Anton Stastny. 6-3 the final score. François Lacombe has been put on waivers. Wilf Payment extends his point streak to 20 games with 2 assists. That was 8 straight with an assist for him as well. Anton Stastny extends his point streak to 13 games with his 3 assists. That's pretty good. Rick Martin is out 3 months with injury. That's going to hurt the Sabres. Brett Callaghan extends his goal streak to 6 games. He had a goal and 2 assists against the Colorado Rockies. Wayne Gretzky in that same game extended his point streak to 20 with 3 assists against Colorado. That was 13 straight with an assist from. Dino Ciccarelli extends his goal streak to 5 games with 2 goals and 2 assists against the Leafs. And Ray Bourque extends with Boston for 2 more years. Alright, we have 2 days off, and then we're going to play Buffalo, who just lost one of their top players, so that's a good time to face them. Alright, so let's see. Cam Connor on waivers, Jack Carlson, Mike Antonovich, Chuck Arneson, Colin Campbell, and our old friend Dave the Ball. So we could claim Dave the Ball back. We're not, but we could. Memorable night for Maurice Lukovic. He had 3 goals for the Jets against the Bruins. Ray Neufeld is feeling better. Got hurt in preseason, still is not recovered from that. Alright, 1 more day off. The Rangers claimed Dave the Ball. So Dave the Ball now with the Rangers. And Buffalo Sabres grabbed Cam Connor off waivers. Oh, maybe to help with the loss of Rick Martin. Ray Neufeld feeling better. Quebec is thinking about trading Serge Bernier. And there's been a trade between Toronto and Minnesota. Greg Hotham for Kelly Greenbank and the rights to Helmut the Raff. That's the second time I had to say that name. That's a very interesting name to me. Helmut the Raff. I might not even be saying it right, but it looks cool. Alright, so we are about to play Buffalo. Alright, Sabres are in town. They are 13-8. That's good for 4th in the conference. We are 1-1-1 against the Sabres. Goran Augusta is going to be in net for Buffalo. John Garrett back in net for the Whalers. And can I get another Whaley W? Please, please, please. A 5-2 victory. So the team seems to gel now. Like when I traded Mike Rogers, we had like a really bad month, and then now that's 2 months in a row where we seem to want to be doing good. The month of January is still it's still early in January though, so let's not get ahead of ourselves, but we are doing pretty good so far. So a 5-2 win against the 5-2 win over the Buffalo Sabres here at home. They did outshoot us 34-32. Ron Stackhouse was the first star of the game. He had 3 assists. Rick Aduano was the second star with 2 goals and an assist. And Anton Stastny was the third star with a goal and an assist. 8,988 people in attendance for the game. Buffalo opened up the scoring in the first. It was 1-0 Buffalo after 1. Then in the second period, Anton Stastny scored from Ron Stackhouse and Rick Aduano 1-1. Then Buffalo scored, took another lead, 2-1, and then Rick Aduano scored on the power play from Bernie Johnston and Ron Stackhouse, 2-2 after 2. Then in the third period, Rick Aduano scored from Bob Stevenson, then Wilf Payment scored from Paul Coffey and Anton Stastny, and then Rick Aduano scored his 5th on the power play from Bernie Johnston and Ron Stackhouse. No, I already said that one. It was Glenn Anderson's 10th, in an empty net from Ron Stackhouse, and it was a 5-2 victory. So Wilf Payment's assist streak is going to end, but his point streak lives on because he got a goal. Oh, Jerry Cheevers has been put on waivers by the Bruins. He's 41 years old. I'm not going to go after him. Wilf Payment extends his point streak to 21 games, as we saw. And his assist streak ended at 8 games, did not get an assist in that game. Anton Stastny extends his point streak to 14 games with a goal and an assist against Buffalo. Brett Callaghan extends his goal streak to 7 games, he had a goal against the Flames. Wayne Gretzky extends his point streak to 21 games with an assist in that same game. And that was 14 straight with an assist from. Mark Messier is feeling better, so is Ray Neufeld. Alright, we're going to get our boys back soon, hopefully. Well, hopefully we get Macy back. Neufeld's going straight to the minors. Right, we have a day off, and then we are going to be playing in Quebec against the Nordiques. Right, Rick Vive extends his goal streak to 5 games. He had a goal against the Blackhawks. Brett Callaghan extends his goal streak to 8 games with a goal against the Flames. Gretzky in that same game had an assist to extend his point streak to 22 games and assist streak games with 15. Mark Messier is almost there, and Ray Neufeld is there, so he is moving to the minors. Alright, we're about to play the Nordiques. Nordiques are 21, 14, and 7. That's good for third in the conference. We are 1 and 2 against the Nordiques this season. That would be very beautiful to beat them. Gilles Gilbert is going to be in net for us. Michel Dion in net for Quebec. And of course, go Whalers, go! 6-3 win over the Nordiques in Quebec. We outshot them 39-21. Rick Aduano was the first star of the game. He had 3 assists. Wilf Payment was the second star with 2 assists. And Ron Stackhouse was the third star with 2 assists as well. Rob Ramage opened up the scoring in the first from Bob Stevenson and Rick Aduano. Then Paul Coffey from Rick Aduano and Jordy Douglas. 2-0 Hartford after 1. Then in the second period, Anton Stashny scored from Rick Aduano and Bob Stevenson, and then his brother Peter scored his 20th of the season from Ron Stackhouse and Wilf Payment. 4-0 Hartford. Quebec scored a goal, but then we scored 2 more. Pierre Bouchard scored from Jay Wells and Wilf Payment, and then Jordy Douglas from Ron Stackhouse and Gordy Roberts. 6-1 Hartford after 2. Quebec did score 2 goals in the third period, but it was a little too late, and we won 6-3. Oh yeah, the Whalers are tearing it up. I'm liking it. I had a very good month of November as well, where I lost only 1 game in November. So we went from... At the start of November, I was 9th in the conference. I'm 4th now, and I have lost 1 game in a month and a half. That's pretty awesome. Of course, I need to stop talking about it because I'm going to jinx myself and I'm going to lose the next 7 or something. Wolf Payment extends his point streak to 22 games with 2 assists against the Nordiques. Anton Stashny extends his point streak to 15 with his goal in that same game. There was no stopping Lanny McDonald. He had a hat-trick here against the Bruins. Open ice leads to a productive night for Darryl Sittler in that same game. He had 4 assists. And Mark Messier is almost there. And he might come back in time because we have 4 days off, so I trust him, I believe in him. And I'm gonna need just a quick second here. And we are back. So as I was saying, we have 4 days off before we play the Bruins. And Mark Messier did come back. Oh yeah. It's like I just made a like I just made a major trade, except I didn't give up anybody. All right, so who's going down? Oh, Bill Bennett is going to go back down. I might lose him on waivers, that's fine. Alright, a few more days off here. Oh, he was picked up. Okay, that's fine. Brian Sutter has a strong game for the Blues. He had 3 goals and an assist. My instant reaction, okay. Alright, so everybody that watches me knows I'm super honest to a fault. Larkin is a good player, and that's probably a good contract for the Wings. That being said, I'm not a fan of Dylan Larkin. I find that he has a tendency to give some cheap shots during games and everything, and then he's quite the coward when it's time to face his own actions. So I don't love Dylan Larkin per se. That being said, he's still a pretty good player. I think that it's about in the range of what he should be played. That's right around the price that Bo Horvat got, and to me, they are probably fairly comparable players. So that's my reaction. That's my take on it. Good for the Red Wings. I wouldn't want Larkin on my team, not because he's not good, but because he likes to give like cheap shots from time to time, and then he kind of shies away from the repercussions of it. I don't have a lot of respect for players like that. My take. Yours might differ, and that's okay. Brian Sutter extends his goal streak to 5 games with that game that we just saw. Rick Vive extends his goal streak to 6 games with a goal and an assist against the Flames. Brett Callaghan extends his goal streak to 9 games with 2 goals against the Capitals. And that's 12 straight with a point for him. Wayne Gretzky extends his point streak to 23 games with 2 goals and an assist in that same game, and it was 16 straight games with an assist. And it's the Rangers that picked up Bill Bennett from us. So we might see some more of Bill Bennett if we play the Rangers again this season. A couple more days off here before we face off against the Bruins. Bill Bennett is claimed off the waiver. You know what? It doesn't matter to me that he was claimed. More contract slots for me. Those contract slots are precious. Well, thank you, Kel. I never shy away from my opinion, even though sometimes it's not always going in the direction that everybody else is thinking and everything. Alright, so after picking up Bill Bennett from the waivers, the Rangers are waiving another guy that used to be on our team. Nick Fotiu is on waivers. I'm not going to claim him. I decided to go without a goon. Kim Claxton is suspended with the Islanders. He's going to miss 6 games. Brett Callaghan extends his point streak to 13 games with 2 assists against the Flyers. Gretzky in that same game had a goal and an assist. That's 24 straight games with a point for him, and that was 17 straight with an assist. Right, Don Liver might be traded by the Maple Leafs. He's been put on the block. Right, and Steve Yanisak was bought out by the Islanders. Alright, so we are in Boston to play the Bruins. Bruins are now 16, 22, and 5. That's good for 7th in the conference. We are 2 and 2 against the Bruins this season. Let's make it 3 and 2. John Garrett is going to be in net for us. Paul Harrison is going to be in net for Boston. And of course, we have Mark Messier back in the lineup. And as I was going to say, of course, go Whalers, go, right? Oh, our perfect month is over. We lost 3-2 in Boston. Couldn't beat the Bruins on their home ice in their little tiny Boston Garden, because those of you who are maybe older like I am might remember that the Boston Garden was like a very small arena, which made it kind of a really tough place to play because you didn't have a whole lot of time before somebody was coming to crush you into the boards. And of course, Boston in the 80s was playing a pretty heavy type of game, so... Alright, so Boston outshot us 43-32. Al Seckert was the first star of the game. He had a goal and an assist. Paul Coffey was the second star with an assist, and Brad Park was the third star with an assist. Boston scored in the first period, and it was 1-0 Boston after one. We did have a couple fights, Brad McCrimmon and Paul Coffey, and then Mark Messier and Mike Milbury. So Mark Messier here making his presence known in his first game back from his injury. And in the second period, Boston made it 2-0, and then Rick Aduano scored from Rob Ramage and Paul Coffey. It was 2-1 Boston after 2. Then in the third period, Chuck Clefley scored his 10th of the season from Bo Berglund and Darren Veitch to tie the game. Yes, sir. So prior to, oh dear God, I don't know what year, but back in the 80s, there wasn't like a rink size standard, so not all the ice surfaces were exactly the same size. So when you were playing like in Boston, like the ice surface was a little bit smaller than everywhere else, so you had a little bit less room to play. But keep in mind, in the 80s you didn't have two-line passes as well, so the size of the arena of the ice surface maybe wasn't as critical as it would be now, because you couldn't make huge stretch passes anyway. So all right, there was a fight between Paul Holmgren and Paul Coffey, and what I noticed is Wolf Payment didn't get a point, so his streak is going to end, while Wayne Gretzky's streak is probably going to continue. How fair is that, Wayne Gretzky? Jeez. I prefer my player to have the streak. Oh, Bo Berglund got hurt in that game as well. Right, we're going to need to take a look at that. So Jim Mayer and John Paddock on waivers. Wolf Payment's point streak ended at 22 games, as I saw. Anton Stastny's point streak ended at 15 as well. He also didn't record a point. Brett Kelligan extends his point streak to 14 games with an assist against Toronto. Gretzky in that same game had 2 goals and 2 assists. So that's 25 straight games with a point and 18 with at least an assist. There was a trade between Toronto and the Rangers. Jim Mayer and Bob Mongrain changed uniforms, and of course Jim Mayer got put on waivers right away. Right, we are going to be playing in Buffalo now against the Sabres. So we just played them. Buffalo is now 21-16-8. That's good for third in the conference. We are now 2-1-1 against Buffalo. Let's beat them again. Gilles Gilbert in net for us. Goran Augusta in net for Buffalo. And of course, give me a Whaley W. And a 4-2 win on the road for the Whalers, so right back at winning. We had our loss for the month, so now we're back to winning. We were outshot 33-30 in that game. Peter Stastny was the first star of the game. He had 2 goals. Mike Ramsey was the second star with a goal, and Wolf Payment was the third star with a goal and an assist. Wolf Payment starting his point streak right back. There you go. That's what great players do. Alright, so Peter Stastny opened up the scoring in the first. That was a power play goal from Ron Stackhouse. Then the Sabres tied the game. It was 1-1 here after 1. There was a fight between Mike McEwen and Rob Ramage. Then in the second period, Wolf Payment scored from Anton Stastny and Gordy Roberts. Then Mark Messier scored from Ron Stackhouse and Matty Agman. 3-1 Hartford after 2. And in the third period, Buffalo came to within 1. It was 3-2, but then Peter Stastny scored on the power play again from Paul Coffey and Wolf Payment, and it was a 4-2 game, and that's how it ended. Cam Connor and Rob Ramage got into a fight, and that was it. Nice little bounce back 4-2 win on the road. I like that. Pierre Larouche has racked up 600 points in his career. That happened against us. He got an assist. Pierre Larouche is 26 years old and he's a 4.5-star player. Suspension for Laurie Boschman. He's now playing in Detroit. He's going to miss 3 games. Brett Kelligan's point streak ended at 14 games. He was held scoreless against the Red Wings. Wayne Gretzky, however, had a goal and an assist, so his point streak continues to 26 games and assist streak to 19 games. Tony Esposito has arrived to 800 games played as a goaltender for Chicago. Sadly for him, his team lost 5-0, and he is 38 years old and a 3.5-star player still. An excellent passing lead, so a productive night for Thomas Graydon. He had 5 assists against Pittsburgh. Alright, we have 2 days off, and then we're going to be hosting the Quebec Nordiques. Alright, Nordiques are in town. They are 22, 17, and 8. That's good for third in the conference. We are 2-2 against the Nordiques. I would love nothing more than to beat them again. The team from my childhood that I was cheering for. Right, Ron Lowe is going to be in net for the Nordiques, and John Garrett is going to be in net for us. And of course, go Whalers, go! Oh, we lost that one 5-4. That's not good. We needed that one. All right, we outshot Quebec 46-40. Serge Bernier was the first star of the game. He had 2 assists. Mark Missy was the second star with 2 assists as well. And then Wire was the third star with a goal. 7,914 people in attendance. So I'm struggling to draw fans in the stands despite us playing ridiculously well for almost 2 months now. Right, so Wilf Payment opened up the scoring in the first. That was unassisted. We were up 1-0 after 1. There was a fight between Wilf Payment and Tiger Williams, then Paul Coffey and Dale Hunter. Then in the second period, Glenn Anderson made it 2-0 from Mark Massey and Gordy Roberts. Then the Nordics scored. It was 2-1. Then Anton Stachny scored his 20th unassisted. 3-1 Hartford. And then Brian Propp scored a couple goals, and it was 3-3 after 2. There was a fight between Mark Missy and Kurt Brackenberry. And the Nordiques scored twice in the third. They were up 5-3. Paul Coffey scored his 15th from Rob Ramage, and Mark Missy gave us a little bit of hope with 6:59 left to go in the third period, but we just couldn't tie the game, so we lost 5-4 on home ice against the Nordiques. Bernie Fedorko extends his assist streak to 8 games. He had a goal and 3 assists against the Oilers. Wayne Gretzky extends his assist streak to 27. His point streak to 27 games. He had an assist against the Blues, and that was 20 straight games with at least an assist for him. All right, we have a couple days off, and then we're going to be in Detroit to play against the Red Wings. Oh, Mike Bussey is day to day. He's hurt a little bit. Shouldn't be too bad, but you know. A night to remember for Mike Bussey. So before being hurt, he managed to get 3 goals and an assist against Pittsburgh. And in that same game, Clark Gillies got a goal and 4 assists. Dynamic passing leads to productive night for Denis Potvin. 4 assists against the Penguins in that same game. Great night for Guy Lafleur. He had a goal and 4 assists against the Flyers. And in that same game, Larry Robinson had a strong game. 2 goals and 4 assists. I forgot that Bo Berglund got hurt, and I forgot to go and take a look at that. And Brian Propp extends with the Nordiques. 4-year extension for Brian Propp. He's 22 years old. I did forget to check Bo Berglund. He's day to day. We're good. But bad GM, right? And one of my players get hurt, and I don't even inquire about what's going on with him. I completely forget about him. Wayne Gretzky's point streak ended at 27 games. Was held scoreless against the Canucks, and that was his assist streak also ends. Do not worry, we're gonna see his name plenty still in the future. Blair McDonald has been put on the block by the Oilers. They're trying to capitalize on his really good season, where he is more than likely playing alongside Wayne Gretzky. Alright, we are in Detroit to play the Wings. They are 16, 26, and 6. That's not great for them. We are 1-1 against Detroit this season. We really need the win here, so please give it to me. Please. Gilles Gilbert in net for us. Reggie Lemley in net for Detroit. And of course, go Whalers go. And we won 4-2. Another nice road win here at the Joe Louis Arena. We outshot Detroit 42-23 in that one. Matty Agman was the first star of the game. He had a goal and an assist. Barnes was the second star with an assist. And Rob Ramage was the third star with 2 assists. Nobody scored in the first. Then in the second period, Wilf Payment scored his 35th of the season from Gordy Roberts and Matty Agman. Then Detroit scored. It was 1-1 after 2. We had a fight between Dave Hansen and Wilf Payment. Then in the third period, Paul Coffey scored short-handed from Mark Messier and Rob Ramage. It was 2-1. Then Paul Coffey scored again on the power play this time from Rob Ramage and Bob Stevenson. It was 3-1. Red Wings scored, came to within one, and then Matty Hagman gave us a 2-goal lead back from Gordy Roberts and Anton Stastny, 4-2 Hartford, the final score. I need more dominant games from Peter Stastny. That's what I need in my life right now. I need for Peter Stastny to have some 3, 4, and 5-point nights. Peter Stastny, the first really good player that I cheered for as a kid. I need for him to do better. Glenn Anderson got hurt, but it looks like it's a day-to-day injury, so we're not going to worry about it. Suspension over for Laurie Bashman in Detroit, back in the lineup. Big game for Dino Ciccarelli, 3 goals and an assist against the Blackhawks. And Bernie Federko extends his assist streak to 9 games with 2 assists against the Leafs. Right, and we have a day off, and then we're going to be in Chicago to play against the Blackhawks. Mike Antonovich has been put on waivers for like the 4th time this season. And we have a trade proposal from the Rangers who want to trade us Tom O'Regan for Jean Savard. Tom O'Regan can play center and left D. That's such a weird combo. I don't know if he's going to make it or not. I'm going to make this trade only because... Well, he did play in the NHL. And I'm going to make it the trade because he does have a 1-star potential and he's 20. So let's make this one trade here. Alright, so Tom O'Regan is coming to town. Of course, he's going straight to the minors. There's no question there. Alright, and we are now in Chicago to play the Blackhawks. Blackhawks are 22-18-8. We are 2-0 against the Hawks this season. I would love to keep it a perfect record against them. Is Glenn Anderson gonna play? Maybe. Maybe he will. Maybe he won't. Actually, he won't. Bo Berglund will, though. Gilles Gilbert is going to be in net for us. Murray Bannerman is going to be in net for the Blackhawks. And of course, go Whalers, go! Another win, 7-4 on the road. We are almost unstoppable. I am loving it. I haven't been feeling that good with the Whalers since I took over for them. Like, we always had losing seasons where we were expecting to lose, and then all of a sudden we're winning games, and it's almost like I don't know how to process this. Alright, Hartford outshot the Blackhawks 32-30 in that 7-4 win. Mark Messier was the first star of the game. He had 2 goals and 2 assists. Rick Aduano was the second star with 4 assists. And Bob Stevenson was the third star with 2 assists. Chicago scored first in the first period. Then Mark Messier scored his 10th unassisted. And then Mark Messier from Rick Aduano and Bob Stevenson. It was 2-1 Hartford after one. Now Mark Messier only has 11 goals. Okay, that's not because he's been hurt quite a bit this season. He missed quite a bit of time. That is why. There was a fight between Greg Fox and Rob Ramage. Then in the second period, Jay Wells scored from Rick Aduano and Anton Stastny. Then Ron Stackhouse scored his 10th from Mark Messier and Rick Aduano. Wilf Payment scored from Mark Messier and Peter Stastny. 5-1 Hartford at that point. Chicago did score 2 more goals before the end of the second period, but we were still up 5-3 after 2. Then in the third period, Chicago scored to make it 5-4, but we scored 2 goals. Jordy Douglas scored on the power play from Bob Stevenson and Rick Aduano, and then Dave Poulin scored in an empty net from Anton Stastny and Gordy Roberts. 7-4. The win for Hartford. Doug Crossman had a boarding major, so he might get suspended, and I might have an injury because of it. I don't have an injury, but he's suspended. Doug Crossman. Doug Crossman is going to be missing 1 game with his suspension for that. Good game for Rick Aduano. He had 4 assists as we saw against the Hawks. Bo Berglund is almost completely recovered, and There was a trade between Toronto and Montreal. Eddie Johnston goes to the Montreal Canadiens for Rod Schutt. All right. All right, we have a day off, and then we're going to be hosting the Calgary Flames. All right, big game for Bob Bourne with the Islanders. He had 4 assists against Pittsburgh. Strong night for Brian Trottier. He had 3 goals and 3 assists in that same game. That's a pretty good game indeed. Mario Faubert has a great game with Montreal. He had 4 assists against the Nordiques. Wayne Babich has a good game in St. Louis. He had 4 assists against the Oilers. Bernie Federko extends his assist streak to 10 games with 2 goals and an assist against the Oilers. Glenn Anderson almost recovered. Bo Berglund is recovered. Our wingers are feeling better. And now Calgary's in town. They are 15, 28, and 8, so it's a little rough in Calgary right now. And we are 0-1 against Calgary. So we did play in Calgary. We lost 7-3. Wasn't our best showing. Hopefully we can get some payback in this one. Dan Bouchard is going to be in net for Calgary. John Garrett is going to be in net for the Waiters. Come on. Let's win on my ace here. Go Waiters. Yikes, we lost 10-6. I don't like that. We were outshot 46-34 in that one. Eric Vale was the first out of the game. He had 3 goals and 2 assists. Ken Houston was the second star with 3 goals and 2 assists as well. And Bol Derev was the third star with 4 assists. Yikes, 8,062 people in attendance for this game. Yeah, that wasn't great. Peter Stastny did open up the scoring in the first for Mark Messier and Jay Wells, and then the Flames scored 3 times, and then we scored 2 more. Matty Agman from Anton Stastny and Bob Stevenson, and then Rob Ramage from Rick Aduano and Glenn Anderson. It was 3-3 after 1. In the second period, Calgary scored. It was 4-3. Then we tied the game. Mark Messier from Peter Stastny and Bob Stevenson. But then the Flames scored 3 goals. It was 7-4. We scored again. Glenn Anderson from Peter Stastny and Jay Wells. It was 7-5. Calgary after 2. Calgary would score 3 more times in the third period, made it 10-5. Then Gordy Roberts scored from Wolf Payment and Mark Messier. 10-6 the final score. Not a great showing here, to be honest. Ron Stackhouse is hurt. We need to take a look at that. 1 to 2 weeks, I'm probably going to need to take care of that. Oh, Jean Savard is being put on waivers by the Rangers right away. That didn't take long. Ivan Boldyrev set everything up tonight. He had 4 assists as we saw. Ken Houston, 3 goals, 2 assists as we saw. Good game for Eric Vale. We saw that as well. Doug Crossman is back from suspension in Chicago. There was no stopping Zino Cicerelli. Oh, dear fucking God. Dear fucking God. So, Minnesota won 7-1 against Detroit, right? Okay, nothing to write home about. That's a little bit of a trouncing. Zino Cicerelli scored all 7 goals. Zino Cicerelli had a 7-goal game in a 7-1 game. This is crazy. I do not know if this has happened in real life. Now, of course, I'm live right now, so I'm not going to go and do a Google search, trying to look for that. But if one of my viewers knows if that has happened, or, if they are inclined to look it up and let me know in the YouTube comments after I upload this, I would be very curious to see if this has happened. Now, I know that there's been like 8 points performance and everything, but as a team, ever had one player like score 7 goals and it was all the goals from their teams? I do not know. That's pretty interesting nonetheless. Suspension over for Kim Claxton, back in the lineup for the Islanders. Lanny McDonald has a good game. He had 3 goals and 3 assists against the Jets. And Robert Picard has a memorable game playing for Washington. He had a goal and 4 assists against the Rangers. I do need to take care of Stackhouse. So the 2 veteran defensemen that I got to help out with, bodies on D keep getting hurt. but at least I got 2 of them, so I always have one of them in the lineup, so that's good for that. So Kitchen is coming back. Right, and we have 2 days off before we play the Boston Bruins at home, so we have 2 games left here in January. Right, Greg Polish has been put on waivers by Washington. Bernie Federko's assist streak ended at 10 games. He was held scoreless against the Minnesota North Stars. Glenn Anderson is completely recovered from his injury. And we have 1 more day off here. Ron Settlebauer has been put on the block by the Bruins. Alright, so Boston is in town. They are 21, 23, and 6. That's good for 7th in the conference. We are 2 and 3 against the Bruins this season. I'd love to win this one. I lost the last one against them. Paul Harrison's going to be in net for Boston. It's a goaltender that beat me in the last game. Gilles Gilbert is going to be in net for us. And go Whalers go! 6-3 victory for the Whalers. Boston outshot us 39-36 in that one. Paul Coffey was the first star of the game. He had 3 assists. Rick Aduano was the second star with 2 assists. And Anton Stastny was the third star with 2 goals. 9,089 people in attendance for the game. Anton Stastny opened up the scoring in the first from Glenn Anderson and Paul Coffey. Then Boston tied the game. It was 1-1 after 1. And in the second period, Boston scored twice. It was 3-1 Boston, but we tied the game with payment from Rick Aduano and Paul Coffey, and then Anton Stastny from Paul Coffey and Rick Aduano. 3-3 after 2. And quite a few fights here. Bill Kitchen fought Al Seckard. Jay Wells fought Terry O'Reilly. Looked like there were more than that. I was fooled. Alright, and then with a tie game, we scored 3 goals in the third period. Peter Stastny scored on the power play from Chuck Leffley and Wilf Payment. Then Matty Agman from Bo Berglund. And finally, Jay Wells scored his 5th in an empty net from Matty Agman and Mark Missy. 6-3 Hartford, the final score. Wilf Payment got into a fight with Brad Park. Then Bill Kitchen with Terry O'Reilly. And yeah, we have 1 more game against the Nordiques. Oh, Anton Stastny is hurt, but he's day-to-day. I don't have to do anything with him. Of course, if he doesn't play, that's going to hurt us. Anton Stastny already one of our best players. Oh yeah, I've had a one. Yeah, well, I came and yes, I had a wonderful month of November where I lost only 1 game. Not November, December. Sorry, lost only 1 game in December, and I have lost only 2 here in January. So yeah, we are looking pretty good. I think we're starting to turn things around. That's what I like to see. Isn't it why we're playing those games anyway, to like kind of take a team from misery to glory? That's pretty much, at least that's why I do it. That's what I like to do, but yeah. I don't really care about the January scouting, and so bruised knee. I think Anton Stastny might sit the game against the Nordiques here, but hopefully he's not going to be out for too long. Then February is going to start with a road trip there. Ooh, and then we have a road trip in Western Canada. Okay. Alright, so Nordiques are in town, 24-19-9 record. They are 4th in the conference. A win against them would allow us to leapfrog them. We also have 3 games on them, so we are only 1 point behind with 3 games on. The way we've been playing lately, I feel pretty good about ourselves, but yeah. We are 2 and 3 against the Nordiques, though. They did beat us earlier this month, so I would like... Well, we did beat them once as well, so I'd love nothing more than to beat them right now. Ron Lowe in net for the Nordiques. John Garrett back in net for the Whalers. Of course, go Whalers, go. Oh, 8-5 victory on home ice. Defense be damn. Alright, shots were tied 38 apiece in that game. In an 8-5 victory for the Whalers, Mark Messier was the first star of the game. He had 2 goals and 2 assists. Paul Coffey was the second star with 3 assists. And Peter Stastny was the third star with 2 assists. 8,219 people in attendance for this nice victory. Nordique scored first in the first, then Matty Agman scored his 10th from Chuck Lefley and Bob Stevenson. Then the Nordique scored again, and we tied it again, this time Mark Messier from Paul Coffey and Rob Ramage. We had a 2-2 tie after 1. And we scored 4 straight goals in the second period. Wolf Payment scored from Mark Messier and Jay Wells, then Gordy Roberts on the power play from Peter Stastny and Paul Coffey. Mark Messier scored from Rob Ramage and Paul Coffey, and then Darren Veitch from Bernie Johnston and Bill Kitchen. 6-2 Hartford at that point. Nordique scored twice. It was 6-4 Hartford after 2. Then in the third, the Nordiques scored again. They were to within 1, but we scored 2 more goals. Wolf Payment scored from Mark Messier and Peter Stastny, and then Bo Berglund scored his 5th in an empty net from Jay Wells and Bernie Johnston, and it was an 8-5 victory. All right, I like that. I don't like that. So my best player, Wolf Payment, who was at the end of the last stream was the second best in scoring in the league, is hurt. And knowing franchise hockey manager, that's probably going to be a several months injury. No, it's just day to day. Alright. So François Lacombe has been put on waivers again. Wolf Payment is only day to day, so that's not the end of the world. Wayne Gretzky lights the lamp. He had 4 goals and 2 assists against the Flyers. Oh, Kim, I don't know if you cut that because you showed up like right about when it happened. So Minnesota won a game against Detroit in my simulation here today. They won 7-1, right? So Minnesota beat Detroit 7-1. Dino Ciccarelli for Minnesota had all 7 goals. That's pretty impressive. Alright, dynamic passing leads for products of the night for Markow. Yeah, I've never seen that. I don't even know if it has ever happened in real life. That was something else. Alright, so Markow in that same game had a goal and 4 assists. How is Markow doing now that I traded him to Edmonton? Hey, he's a point per game. Good for him. You just couldn't do it with me. Like, you were always hurt and everything. So that it's good for you. Alright, the top-selling Hartford Whalers jerseys for January. Wolf Payment, number 1. John Garrett, Mark Messier, Paul Coffey, and Gilles Gilbert. Wow, both of our goaltenders selling jerseys here. Alright, my development report that I like to look at. Right, so Kent Carson getting a little bit here. Oh, Randy Cunningworth getting agility, that's good. Kind of need for him to get a little bit better before I can play him in the NHL. Tony Fiore, Tom O'Regan that I just got in a trade. Bo Berglund getting some more puck handling, and he's 26, that's good. Paul Coffey getting better. Dave Poulin, Peter Stastny getting more agility, I'll take it. Anton Stastny leadership. Okay, Mike Vernon getting a little bit better, a little bit at a time. I need for him to pick it up a little bit. Is a potential drop to Alpha Star, so now he's only a 3-star potential. Now, Mike Vernon should be fairly decent, so I'm not too worried about the number of stars that he has, but yeah. Ray Allison getting worse. Pierre Bouchard, yeah, Pierre Bouchard is declining, but that's fine. He's just a stopgap for that this season because I don't have a lot of D-man. He's not coming back. Same for Ron Stackhouse. I'm not worried. He's not coming back either. Oof, a lot of those players there are getting worse and worse and worse. Alright, most jerseys sold in the entire NHL. Ray Bourque, number 1. That makes sense. I can live with that. Alright, so Glenn Hanlon and Wayne Gretzky were the players of the month in January in the NHL. Alright, so after The month of January, we are now third in the conference, so think about it, folks. At the end of November, after the second month of the season, at the end of November, we were ninth in the conference. We jumped up 6 spots in 2 months. That is not nothing. That is pretty freaking impressive. Now, of course, catching up with the Montreal Canadiens is almost impossible. They are just too good, but I am liking where we're at, and we have game on hands on almost everybody. Almost everybody. So that we have a good shot to be pretty high. So now it's a pretty good thing that I traded my Mike Rogers to the Pittsburgh Penguins for their first round draft pick, because Pittsburgh continues to be absolutely garbage. So their first round draft pick is going to be pretty good. Mine is at this point is not going to be all that great. So I might be able to get a pretty good player because I traded Mike Rogers to Pittsburgh, and I capitalized on the fact that they were really horrible after that first month of the season. They were 1-13. So I was like, oh, that's a first round draft pick I wouldn't mind putting my hands on. And I did. Alright, so let's take a look, see if Pittsburgh is still the worst team in the league. We have some vested interest in that. Oh yeah, they are by far the worst team. A minus 79 differential, that's terrible. Alright, we're going to take a look at our stats. Now, Wilf Payment continues to be absolutely fantastic. 83 points in 50 games for Wilf Payment. That's pretty good. Yeah, I'm hoping that the computer doesn't get me Gord Kluzak for sure when you have those guys available. And maybe with my pick, if I can get lucky, maybe get a Dave Andreychuk or something like that. That would be pretty cool. 82 wasn't the best draft in NHL history by any stretch of the imagination, but there are some decent players in there for sure. Alright, so Wilf Payment, 83 points in 50 games. Peter Stastny, 65 in 48. I like to see that. Paul Coffey, 53 in 47. So Paul Coffey now above a point per game. Anton Stastny, 51 in 48, above a point per game as well. Gordy Roberts, 39 in 50. Mark Messier, 36 in 31, so he's above a point per game. He just got hurt, so didn't play that many games. Then it goes down from there, but we're finally scoring goals in Hartford. That was our big problem for, since the start of me starting this. We're now finally scoring some goals. It took a little bit of exercising and trading away some pieces and everything, and signing some key free agents like Peter Stastny and his brother Anton, but we finally are there. And then in the entire league, the best goal scorer is Morris Lukowicz in Winnipeg with 46. Zeno Cesarelli, of course, had a 7-goal game, so he's now second. Wilf Payment is 6th on that list. That's pretty good. Best passer is Wayne Gretzky with 59 assists, and the best scorer is Mike Bossy with 97 points. Wilf Payment is now third with 83. Oh yeah, yeah they are. So when I made the trade for the first round draft pick, I almost got the 83 one, but I was like, I don't know if Pittsburgh is still gonna suck at that point, because Pittsburgh did draft Dale Hawerchuk in my universe, and now they have Mike Rogers, so they're starting to have some pieces. They also have Mike Ballard, so they're starting to have pieces to start being better and everything. So I was like, that might be too risky. So I was like, there's still decent players in this draft. I would be totally happy with a Phil Housley, or a Scott Stevens. I would be, elated to have one of those two players. So let's do it for this year, and then, we'll take it 1 year at a time. But yeah, 83 and 84 have some pretty fantastic players in them for sure. Alright, so Dave Poulin still comfortably first in shorthanded goals with 5. So that is where we are at. I am going to go ahead and save my game. Now, sadly, as usual, I cannot stay for super long at a time, so I'm gonna have to go here. But thank you for showing up here, Kim. Sorry that it was right at the last second, but we got to to talk about the Dinos. It's a really crazy game and look at some of the drafts that are incoming. I hope you have a good rest of your day, and everybody else that showed up, thank you for tuning in. If you're catching this on YouTube, you like the video, please, you know what to do. But for now, it's going to be ARG out, so peace out, folks. See you on Friday.